Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are breaking down the absolute sheer drama of Canada's opening World Cup match using the ultimate sports storytelling arc. We're diving deep into that historic 1-1 draw against Bosnia and Herzegovina, played out in front of a completely roaring Toronto crowd. So let's get right into it and see exactly how Canada managed to secure this result, the unbelievable impact of a substitute hero, and of course, those agonizing missed chances that really define the game.
Let's start with just one single digit, 1. That is Canada's first ever senior men's World Cup point in history. After early exits and literal 0-point finishes in 1986 and 2022, finally securing a point on home soil? That's a monumental milestone for the entire program.
But, despite all the celebrations echoing through that stadium, we kind of have to ask ourselves, was settling for a 1-1 draw actually a missed opportunity? The path to the knockout rounds is definitely still open, but dropping points against a team that was widely considered highly beatable significantly tightens Jesse Marsch's margin for error moving forward. Part 1. The agony of the miss. Dominating a pitch without finding the net.
To really understand why this feels like a missed opportunity, we have to talk about the immense frustration of Canada's missed scoring chances. 10. That's how many corner kicks Canada earned in just the first half alone. It perfectly highlights how heavily they dominated possession and applied constant, suffocating pressure without actually finding the finishing touch. They were practically living in the opponent's penalty area, dictating the entire tempo, but just failing to capitalize.
And you can really map out this frustration. In the 17th minute, Jonathan David gets completely stuffed. Just 4 minutes later, Bosnia makes them pay, immediately scoring off a corner kick header. Then the missed opportunities just start piling up. Tani Uluasei barely misses the crossbar in the 32nd minute, and this whole series of heartbreaking misses culminates in the 53rd minute when Richie Laryea violently strikes the crossbar. Richie Laryea said it best after the match. He said, 9 times out of 10, it's an own goal, but it's a crossbar and it goes out, so it's a great play. He slipped the ball past the goalkeeper, fully expecting it to go in, but a desperate, last-second defensive clearance deflected his shot off the woodwork. His disbelief beautifully captures the tension of a match where Canada came within mere inches of taking total control.
Part 2. The Larin Effect. Cometh the hour, cometh the man.
So, with the tension at an absolute peak and Canada desperately needing an equalizer, the narrative completely shifts. Cy Larin comes off the bench in the 76th minute. 2 minutes later, he makes an immediate, massive impact with a clever turn at the edge of the box to blast home the tying goal. He single-handedly sent that Toronto crowd into absolute euphoria.
I score when Canada needs me. I mean, come on. You literally cannot script a more badass post-game quote than that. He stepped onto the pitch with the weight of the entire host nation on his shoulders and delivered exactly what they were begging for.
Larin came into this match with an impressive 30 goals in 90 national team appearances. What's totally wild here is that Jesse Marsch actually kept him out of the starting 11, but Larin's magic touch? Undefeated. Canada has literally never lost a game where he finds the back of the net. When he scores, they get results. It's as simple as that.
Part 3. Tactics under Jesse Marsch. High intensity meets deep blocks. Let's pull back from the individual heroics for a second and look at the tactical framework here. Marsch has instituted this highly aggressive ball-oriented 4-4-2 pressing identity. Basically, they hunt the ball in packs to force turnovers high up the pitch. It completely relies on rapid, devastating transitions, using the elite pace of their wide players to catch the defense entirely off guard.
But it's a bit of a double-edged sword. Sure, this high-intensity pressing lets them smother teams and totally dominate the tempo. The vulnerability, though, is that they struggle immensely to break down a deep block. When a team just packs all their defenders near the goal like a brick wall. That thoroughly explains all those frustrating misses when Canada was forced to hold possession and try to create against a completely set defense. And compounding that finishing problem was a painful, glaring absence on the pitch. Captain Alphonso Davies was sidelined with a leg injury. That was a massive blow, taking away their most dynamic attacking outlet and the primary on-field composure you desperately need to break down those tight, stubborn defensive lines.
Part 4. Surviving Group B, looking ahead to Qatar and Switzerland.
Now that we have this historic point secured in the bank, what does Canada actually need to do to survive Group B? Well, despite that frustrating draw, the predictive models over at the Action Network are still heavily in Canada's favor. They're actually giving Canada a commanding 79% chance to reach the round of 32. Mathematically, they are very much still in the driver's seat. The betting markets are completely echoing that optimism too.
they heavily favor Canada to qualify. But to get there, they realistically need 4 total points to advance. That makes the upcoming match against host nation Qatar a highly winnable, yet absolutely essential, must-win fixture.
Here's the really good news, though, that should give fans a ton of hope. Canada's backline is remarkably stingy. We're talking only 0.59 goals allowed per game since 2025. That is an elite defensive setup. This means if they can just figure out how to consistently find that final touch and finish their scoring chances, they are incredibly dangerous to absolutely anyone they face.
And get this, there is a massive, surprising climate advantage in Canada's favor. When you look at the wet bulb globe temperature, which measures performance-killing heat stress, Canada only faces about 2.4 matches in those conditions. Compare that to tournament favorites like Argentina, who are expected to face a grueling 6.7 matches in extreme heat.
So heading into BC place for those crucial matches against Qatar and Switzerland, Canada is going to benefit massively. They're getting cooler, safer, physical conditions out on the West Coast, combined with the absolute roaring energy of a ferocious home field advantage.
The tactics are working, the defense is absolutely elite, and the home crowd is primed. But the ultimate question to leave you with in this explainer is this: can Canada finally translate their incredible pitch dominance and high-intensity pressing into actual goals when it matters most? They've got the historic point. Now, finding that killer instinct is literally the only thing standing between them and a deep run into the knockout rounds.